Second, then we're just gonna go. Let me make sure. You see it? All right. Ba, 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 ba. All right. Let's wait for these people. This is gonna be an interesting game. All right, let me start this.
Only Buffalo is going to win it, folks.
Kick your heels up and shout.
We've seen why the Buffalo Bills are en route to the playoffs.
Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout.
Buffalo Bills go undefeated. And we're going to the Super Bowl, yeah.
Now, baby, come on, come on.
No one
Come on
circles the
and
wagon
shout.
like the Buffalo Bills.
All right, we are live and we are back. Welcome to another episode of the Overdue Bills podcast, and we're definitely excited today. We told you definitely at the beginning of the season that we're gonna try and have a guest on every week, and we've been delivering. So we're definitely grateful today. So let me just introduce the guys here, or at least my guy, Matty Ice, aka Camo Matt. He's not all black, but he's in his camo today. Matt, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm here. I'm ready to talk some Bills football. Got a really good game coming up this weekend. I'm excited for it. So that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. And you see it, behind enemy lines, as they say. But no. Our guy, Cody, man, we appreciate you coming on. We thank you for your time. How you doing today?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys, your invite. It's always good to come on and talk some ball, regardless of what happens. It's always fun to make these connections. So yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Matt, you got something to say?
No.
Oh, okay. I see he's opening his mouth. So listen, let's do this real quickly before we get into the show. You know it. We have to let the people know who our presenting sponsor is. Matt, please let the people know who is sponsoring this show.
Yes, sir. This show and every other episode is brought to you by none other than Buffalo Wing Kings. Being from Buffalo, there's two things the guys here at the Overdue Bills podcast know. That's Bills football, and that's wings. Our first choice and the best choice is Buffalo Wing Kings. At Wing Kings is Wings 101. With over 101 different flavors of wings and a beloved Wing of the Month special, Wing Kings is sure to school any other wing place around. Hit them up for Bills games, parties, or just any random time you want to go get some wings. Hit up Buffalo Wing Kings. Stop down and see them at their Elmwood Village location at 484 Elmwood Avenue, or give them a call at 716-248-1427 and find out why they say, and we know, they got the best wings in town, hands down. And make sure when you go in there, you mention our name, Overdue Bills Podcast. Get 10% off your order.
Absolutely. Shout out to Buffalo Wing Kings. We definitely appreciate them. Please go to them for your wing needs. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. Just to let the people know, overduebillspod.com. Overduebillspod.com. Please, we want you to go to our website. We have amazing articles up. We have our merch up. Matt is sporting our camo. That's our special this month. Shout out to our salute to service. Shout out to all of those veterans out there. We appreciate you. And we'll definitely be on the lookout. We got some specials coming up, for Black Friday. We will be releasing that as the days come on. So we appreciate you. We thank you for supporting us. And let's get into the show. You know how we do it. Quick question of the day. All right. And I'm going to do a little bit of trivia. And you probably shouldn't know this because it did happen last year, but I'm going to ask Cody, can you tell me the score of last year's playoff game against the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts? And if Cody, well, Matt and Cody, but I'm gonna let our guests go first.
Man, and it probably is not right, but for some reason I have in my mind 28-24. I don't remember if that's correct or not, but like I know the Bills obviously won, but it was very close, I remember.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, it was actually 27-24. Because you guys made that late push in the fourth quarter. I know me and Sam were kind of talking about that earlier today, but yeah, they almost got in the field goal range, and then they kind of ran out of time, and then Phillip Rivers had that desperation heave at the end, and Micah Hyde knocked it down to get us into the next round. So 27-24, we squeaked out of there with a victory. We were on the right side of that this time.
Absolutely, definitely appreciate that. But so let me ask you this. Just even thinking about that game, and I kind of wanted to know this about the Colts fans. We got to talk about Phillip Rivers last year and Carson Wentz this year. I kind of want to get your opinion on this because Carson Wentz has definitely had an up and down season, to say the least, right? Phillip Rivers clearly took you to the playoffs. You had a chance to get to the divisional. I mean, it was a close game. So how does Indianapolis Colts fans feel, and how do you feel about, the idea of bringing in a Carson Wentz? I understand Phillip Rivers said he's going to retire, but I believe if you would have pushed him, he probably would have came back for another year. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah. So this is actually something I actually just talked about with some friends. And I've said this before, but in that Buffalo game, a couple things became pretty obvious to me. The first one, and something I'm sure we'll talk about later, is, the pass rush. I felt like the Colts needed to figure out their pass rush. They went out and they did that in the draft. But also it was that quarterback position. I thought Phil played pretty well in that Buffalo game, but I was looking at Josh Allen in that game, and I was always just like, man, I wish the Colts had a quarterback like that could do the things with his legs that simply Phillip Rivers could not at his age, and with his injury to his toe and all those things. And so I was kind of like wishing the Colts had that. So when the Colts went out and, when Phillip Rivers retired, I was kind of like, okay, they can actually now go and get that. And, Carson Wentz is every bit of that. He's maybe to a fault sometimes. He's got kind of that gunslinger mentality where he can, he'll throw any ball and he'll use his legs. He'll sacrifice his body sometimes. And sometimes it's not good. Sometimes that is good. But I think the thing that it helps with your offense is definitely that it opens up your offense a lot more. Like you can go a lot deeper now into the playbook and stuff. You don't have to be limited by your quarterback. Right. In terms of mobility wise. So, overall from that standpoint, I feel like Carson Wentz's ceiling compared to Phillip Rivers is a lot higher, while I'll say his floor is probably a little bit lower than what Phillip Rivers would have given you last year. So yeah, it's kind of like you trade off one thing, some good things and some bad things for another player who has some good things and some bad things. So overall though, I felt like Carson's played pretty well. He didn't have a great game against Jacksonville. Now you do kind of think, and you guys know as well as anybody, that defensive line for Jacksonville is definitely no joke.
Don't remind me.
Especially 41 right there. He's a monster out there. He was giving us fits as well. So, I mean, other than that, and like a couple throws in that Tennessee game, everybody likes to point to that throw that Carson Wentz had. I thought he's played pretty well, honestly, overall, all things considered, with, missing all of training camp and preseason because of that freak, surgery he had to have in his foot. I feel like he's played, he's been a above average to really good quarterback, I feel like, personally, especially with missing T.Y. Hilton for a good majority of the season, right? Missing Paris Campbell for a good majority of the season. The offensive line, I think this is only like their third game now having their entire starting 5 offensive linemen on the field at the same time. So, Wentz has not necessarily had the easiest start to Indianapolis, and the defense has kind of taken a step back so far. So, the things that Phillip Rivers could kind of rely on last year haven't necessarily been all the staples of this Colts team this year.
It's definitely interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I do have Carson Wentz in one of my fantasy leagues, and so I definitely have a keen eye on him. And he's been playing pretty good, right? Like I can't lie, he's been playing pretty good. He definitely had some ups and downs, some turnover issues in the beginning, but he's kind of stayed with the ship, and it's definitely gonna show up to be a great game. Because the reality is Carson Wentz, prior to the injury, he was I don't want to say he was Josh Allen, but he was like heavily touted. He was an MVP candidate that year he got hurt, right? He was of that pedigree from an obscure school, right? Not necessarily a big school coming out of college. And Josh Allen is the same way, right? Not from a big school, big arm. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be great to see these guys go head to head. But what I want to do before we kind of get into the game and some matchup things, we definitely have to talk about the injury report. And I'm going to go to Matt first because it's definitely a little rough for the Buffalo Bills, to say the least. We were talking about it, pregame. So, Matt, please, man, just talk about it.
Yeah. So as of today, we got some really bad news. Well, it could potentially be really bad, but Spencer Brown, the rookie tackle that I talked really good about on the recap show the other day, he got put on the COVID list. So I'm not. I hate that they're like they're like holding, is he vaccinated? Is he not vaccinated? They're like holding that information hostage on every player this year. It's kind of weird to me. It's like the concussion like McDermott was in the press conference today talking about like he's in the COVID protocol. Like what does that even mean, man? Like just say if we're waiting on the test tomorrow or it's over. And that's so. Hopefully he did get vaccinated and then he can take another test. He can test positive two times before Sunday and be back in the lineup. But then Star Latulele is kind of in the same boat. He missed the game Sunday, and I'm feeling like he's not vaccinated. So that would give him 10 days, and it's not looking like he's going to be able to play in the game. And then also on the injury, like the actual injury standpoint, we had Tremaine Edmonds. He hasn't practiced all week, and then when they talked about it, it was kind of like, he's still day to day. Nothing got better. So that's kind of alarming in the game we're going up against the Colts. And then another guy in our linebacker trio is Matt Milano. He didn't practice today. He was limited the last couple of days with a shoulder injury. So those are some big names in our lineup, and it will be very, very tough to go into this kind of game without those guys.
Definitely huge names, and we're going to talk about the matchups. We're definitely about to get to a Jonathan Taylor topic in a few, but we do have to talk about the Indianapolis Colts injury report, and I looked at it, and my eyes kind of lit up because I do see DeForest Buckner. It says his abdomen / throat / back. I don't even know what that means, but it doesn't sound good. It
sounds like you got like a bad fight or something in downtown Indy or something.
It sounds really bad. And I also see Xavier Rhodes. He was limited in practice, which is kind of got my spidey senses going up. So I'm gonna ask you, Cody. I'm not really sure what's going on. So what's the deal?
Yeah, DeForest Buckner, funny enough, he tweeted out, he said, I see y'all like adding me and asking me if I'm all right. He's like, I'm good. I'm going to play. So he was full practice today. He's playing. As far as Xavier Rhodes, honestly, if he didn't play, I wouldn't be upset because he's been downright terrible this year. Just going to say how it is. And I feel like the other guys have played better personally. So, it may actually be a blessing for you guys if he plays and starts because he has been hot garbage this year so far. And he gets injured every other game, it feels like. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest one for me is Darius Leonard. Yep. He hurt that ankle. He went down in that Jacksonville game. He came back, so you do think he's probably going to be all right. But, he said his ankle feels a lot better than it did. So that's good. He was limited today. He's the biggest one worth watching, but pretty much everybody else, it's weird. Like this team started off so bad with the injuries. Mm-hmm. It was like every week, multiple guys were injured or limited or, whatever game time decisions. But like now for the first time, you feel pretty good about just about everybody on the team has a really good chance to play. Now, Colts had a couple guys that went on IR. Julian Blackmon, Corey Willis, both their starting safeties are out for this game. So, I mean, that's big, obviously. But, yeah, other than that, the guys that are kind of day-to-day and stuff, they all practiced in some capacity besides one guy who's not really – he's more of a reserve. So, all the guys that really mattered practiced. So, I mean, I guess that's good for a Colts injury front news.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with that being said, especially you talked about your safeties, let's get right into the matchups, right? Let's get right into the matchups because it's going to be very, very interesting simply because we know the Colts, according to a lot of metrics, Pro Football Focus, I mean, you go down the list, the secondary has been a problem, right? It just has been a problem naturally. And the Buffalo Bills, according to our last game against the Jets, we're kind of sort of righting the ship. Josh Allen has gotten to a groove last game, albeit it was the Jets, but still, offense is kind of clicking, at least from last game. So, Matt, how do you feel about that? Do you think that's going to be our focal point? Because last week, mind you, we tried to be balanced. Like, we were kind of running the ball. We tried to, do a little bit of screen, try to get the running backs the ball. But do you think it's just going to be an air raid attack, Josh Allen, 4 wide, and we're just going to go at him the whole game? How do you feel?
Well, it's kind of tough to say. Like the Spencer Brown injury is going to be, I guess, the key in all that, because the matchups up front change drastically when you got to put in somebody like Cody Ford against a DeForest Buckner. And like that's like how the Jaguars, they kind of shut us down, being able to have their front four kind of put pressure on it and then discipline linebacker core. Like Darius Leonard's obviously one of the best linebackers in the game. He kind of, he was able to stay home, or the Jaguars linebackers were able to stay home and give the front four a little bit more time to not have Josh kind of develop on the level schemes that we run. So with those guys being out, I think that the front four will be able to get home a little bit easier and, kind of mess with Josh a little bit. But on the flip side of that, Josh has been one of the best quarterbacks throwing under pressure and kind of against a blitz. So I do think we're going to exploit one-on-ones and kind of go, hey, like we saw last week with Stephon Diggs, my number one receiver is better than your number one cornerback. So they're going to try to go for it. Even Josh said, when I get him involved, everything opens up for everybody else. As you saw, Gabe Davis had a 100-yard game. Cole was able to get a couple catches. Sanders able to get a couple catches. So I do think that they're going to exploit the pass a lot more, because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, especially with Spencer Brown out.
So, Cody, is it a situation with the defensive line? Is it a situation where you're just going to rush 4 and then you kind of play everybody back? Because that's what's been going on, right, with the Bills and even the Chiefs, just to say, this too deep shell, right? Everybody's keep talking about, right, this too deep shell, send the safeties back. You know what I mean? Kind of, you're only rushing forward, keep everybody back, and just all right, dump it down. Go 80 yards down the field. Limit the big plays. Is it a situation where schematically, your defense is probably going to lean towards that and just allow DeForest Buckner just to pin his ears back and listen, just hit that man named Josh Allen? Is that where y'all going?
Yeah, that's what they typically do. Okay. They do the same kind of thing there. They're very much a zone team. They sit back a lot of times, and I'm not personally a fan of it, but that's kind of what they do. I feel like if you do that, you have to actually have legit guys on the edge, and they've struggled to find those. They've drafted a lot of guys, but nobody's really stepped it up yet. But yeah, I think the big issue with this team has just been the lack of edge presence that they've had. They went and they drafted 2 guys right this year. After that, the Buffalo loss, they went and drafted Kwity Paye. They drafted Dio Adangbo back-to-back. And to start the year, Kwity got hurt a little bit. He missed a couple games. Dio just got activated. He had that injury that kind of forced him into the second round. A lot of people said he was a first-round talent, before the injury. And he's coming back, and he's looked pretty good as well. So I think the big thing for the Colts, obviously the injuries has been an issue with the safety, Xavier Rhodes as well. But actually the corners have not been bad outside of Xavier Rhodes. The Rocky Sen's been a top 20 corner. Isaiah Rodgers, who's getting a little bit more run with Xavier out, he's actually been pretty good. He's one of the more that speed guy as well. And, Kwity has been coming on a little bit more. So you feel like now maybe he can take advantage of those one-on-one matchups with Buckner continuing to get those double, even triple teams at times. Yeah. So this defense is they've been kind of turning it up a little bit better the last couple of weeks. Still not where it needs to be in terms of pass rush and stuff. But I think that's why maybe the team started off so poorly defensively, especially against the pass, because they just, they could not get pressure on the quarterback at all. Now they're still very much a work in progress, but I feel like they're starting to get more into that, and they're starting to actually, get some legit pressure from their four that they do rush. So yeah, I'm not personally a fan of what they do. And a lot of that, that Jets game was a lot of garbage time stuff, but I'm just not a fan of kind of sitting back and letting the offense dictate,
Right.
and that's what that defense for Matt Eberflus does a lot of times. And I'm just not personally a fan of it.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I think I know it's cliche to say, but like the line of scrimmage is good, like where this game is gonna kind of be decided. I know people say that all the time, but it is right. Like and with Spencer Brown being iffy, we've seen that story before, and it's not pretty. Like Cody Ford, and I said it on a couple shows before, he's probably the worst lineman I've ever seen in my life. Like seriously, like it seems like he just can't get right for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, hopefully we may scheme up some pressure, maybe keep the running back there. But DeForest Buckner, clearly he's healthy. He is going to be a problem. So we'll see how that kind of unfolds. But with that being said, the Buffalo Bills, according to mostly all metrics, we have the best, defense in the league. Pretty much. We're clicking on all cylinders, all pros, especially on the back end. Safeties, corners, have been playing extremely well. Obviously, with the injury report with Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds, that's an issue. Star Latule, that's an issue. But with that being said, we do have depth at every position. And so, Matt, and I'm going to go to you first because I know Cody, I'm going to allow you to take the time to talk about him, but we have to stop probably, I would consider the best running back in football. And not only that, one of the best offensive lines in football, in Jonathan Taylor and the offensive line of Indianapolis Colts. So I'm going to ask you, Matt, how do you feel about that, right? Like, is it a situation, because we talked about earlier what you wanted the team to do. So I'll let you speak on that. And then Cody, I'll let you, rebut.
Well, I mean, if with the guys in the front seven out, this has to be a game. I know we talk about them every week, this elite secondary. This has to be a game where you're able to load up the box and have those guys cover one-on-one, which we normally do, and they have to just keep locking up, and they have to be double agents, right? They have to lock up and also be able to help and run support too, because like you said, Jonathan Taylor is a different animal. He's a home run hitter. They have they're an explosive, and also I know that Frank Reich's probably watching film on the Tennessee game. That play action killed us with Derrick Henry once he got going. So you can't get a guy like Jonathan Taylor going, because that's just going to suck in the whole defense and create big plays. So definitely got to be able to, load up the box and get some stops, and that to, not be able to open up that play action. That's how I'm hoping they come out to do it this week.
So with that being said, Cody, like, do you believe that your offense is coming into this game, Frank, right? Like, okay, let's give Jonathan Taylor 28 touches, or not, I would say 28 touches, but I mean, let's feed him the rock. And let's be clear, not just Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines. I mean, they always have a gadget play for him. I mean, every time you watch it, it's always some little skirmish where Nyheim Hines is running 20 yards this way. So is that the game plan, to kind of like, let's feed the rock, keep the ball out of Carson Wentz's hands, try to get, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, manageable things. Is that the situation?
It should be. But I've said that before, and they go and make Carson throw it 40 times, and I'm just scratching my head like, what are you doing? But that should be the game plan. Yeah. Especially, it's kind of like, even with the 49ers, they were missing Kinlaw, and the Colts just ran the ball, and they were able to do that play action and stuff. I think that should be the game plan, is run the ball and then run it again. And, don't give yourself a chance to turn the ball over. We know it's like, don't like magnify their strength, like you have Pittman, who's a really good receiver. You have TY, who's coming in, but you don't really have anybody that's like, oh my word, I'm going to put him, maybe Pittman. But other than that, outside of Pittman, you don't really have anybody that you can say one-on-one matchup, he's probably going to win, especially against a defense like your guys's. So I have no issue with running the ball. One thing the Colts do really well is they ask all their receivers to run block, and all of them are pretty good at it. So I know the weather is, there may be a little bit of rain, so it might be one of the more nasty games in this. But I think, yeah, for sure, the game plan should be to run Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines a lot in this game. Because I don't know where you guys are in terms of like against the run, but I think the Colts have a good opportunity.
So we're actually third. We've only given up 100-yard rusher, and that was obviously against Derrick Henry. We give up just under 84 yards a game. So we are very good against the run, but that is with Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds, Star Latulele. You know what I mean? So that those cogs in the defense, it's a whole different group when they're not out there.
I will say this is kind of a crazy stat for you guys. So I know it's the Jets, but the Jets actually came into Indianapolis like a top 10 run defense. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Taylor had nearly 200 yards against him. They dropped him all the way like 25th in one game.
It's crazy.
So he's dangerous, man. He's dangerous.
I was not loving that. I played against Jonathan Taylor that week in fantasy, so I was not happy. Same. It was like an 86 yarder or something like that. It's not good for me.
Listen, it's a love-hate thing. I definitely got Jonathan Taylor also in fantasy, and it's kind of hard watching it that way, but it is what it is. But I wanted to ask you this, because one of the ways you kind of can neutralize a great running team is if the Buffalo Bills come out like gangbusters and get up to a 14 point lead. And it's like, okay, you have to pass the ball now. I mean, you just can't keep running it. So my question is, do you think a passing-led offense by Carson Wentz can keep up? Like, if the Bills come in and just start getting it, right? First, couple plays, Diggs, Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, boom, boom, boom. We up. Now we're up 10. We're up 14. Do you think Carson Wentz can mount a comeback or just go pound for pound with Josh Allen? Do you think he has that in his game?
I actually do, but I think this is what I'm going to say. He needs to be protected well, because if he's not protected well, as with any quarterback, he's not going to be able to do what he's going to do. Like Carson Wentz has been really good this year. And pretty much, and passing the ball down the field and stuff. But when Jacksonville was able to get pressure on him, and Eric Fisher is the guy you want to go after there, he's kind of struggled in pass protection. When they were able to do that, it just threw the offense completely off rhythm, right? So, it obviously flows through the running game, but I do think he can, especially if the running game is, still working. I think that does definitely help with any offense. But yeah, I think if you ask Carson to do it, he can do it. Obviously, it's not preferred, but I think he can do it, which is great, for this offense. But if they can protect him well, I definitely think he can, keep up. That's not ideal, but I think he can.
It's interesting. It's gonna. Hopefully that. We'll see. That's if the game goes that way, and we're going to get to that, right? We're going to get to our over/under segment. But before we do, Matt, can you please let the people know who is sponsoring this over/under segment?
Yes, sir. This over-under segment is brought to you by the good people at Buffalo Pet Supply. Do you have a pet? Are you looking into getting a pet, or know someone who has a pet? There's only one place to send them for everything to make that pet live its best life. Buffalo Pet Supply. Specializing in fish, small animals, and reptiles, a knowledgeable staff at Buffalo Pet Supply can get you set up or maintain whatever setup you may have. Stop down and see the family-owned and operated staff at 1345 Military Road, or give them a call at 716-874-1951. And same deal, when you go in there, make sure you mention our name, Overdue Bills Podcast. You get 10% off your order.
Absolutely. Shout out to Buffalo Pet Supply. We definitely appreciate them, where if you're under, they'll bring you over. All right, so let's do this. I want to talk over-unders, and I want to go straight to turnovers. Because I was looking at a stat. It's interesting. Buffalo Bills, we have 24 turnovers or takeaways this season. And the Indianapolis Colts have 21, right? We're one in there too. Interesting, right? This is going to clash. So I'm going to go to Cody first, and I'm just going to ask the game overall, not in the individual team, just the game overall. Do you see over under 4 takeaways, just in general, the game?
That's a good question. And again, I would have to check. I don't know how good you guys are at protecting the football. You're good at taking it away. I don't know how good you are in protecting the football, but I would say, man, I think my over/under is probably like 3. So I'll go under. I'm going to say 3. I think
that's a good number, Matt.
Yeah, I'm going to go right at 4. Because we, like you said, we're 1 and 2. We both average about 2 takeaways a game. And I watched for whatever Colts games I watched this year. It seems like everybody on their defense is like doing the Peanut Tillman, punch the ball for ball carriers. They get a lot of tips and picks like that. At least the games I've watched, and we're kind of the same way. So, last week all 5 secondary members got forced or got a turnover. So I'm definitely liking that. With Carson Wentz has been known to sometimes give it away a little bit more under crazy situations. So I'm gonna set it right at 4.
It's interesting. Okay, we'll see. I mean, the turnover game is definitely going to be big, especially if we get some weather.
Yeah.
Who knows how that's going to shake out. So Carson Wentz, Matt, over under 215 and a half passing yards, 215 and a half.
Over 215 and a half. I'm gonna go over on that. I don't think he's gonna be our first 300-yard passer against, but I think he will go over 215. I think he'll be right in between there.
Cody?
Yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, probably a little bit over that for sure. And I think they will try to run it, more. But I think that's a little bit over that. It would be probably what I'm thinking.
Interesting. Okay, we'll see. Josh Allen, and this is I'm not gonna shout out the name where I'm getting these picks from because they don't sponsor us, but I am getting them from a site. Josh Allen, 285 and a half passing yards. And if you're in the comments, please let us know how you feel as well. So Matt, you can go first. 285 and
I'm gonna go over just because of the fact that we're gonna have a tough time running the ball. They got a good front seven. We are not really a good running team, so I think we're gonna have to throw the ball to win this game. I'm gonna go over.
Okay, Cody.
Yep, I agree with that. I think I'm gonna go over as well because I think you're gonna have to throw it a lot. The Colts aren't as good as they were last year against stopping the run, but they're still a solid team at stopping the run. So I think it's gonna be they're gonna sling it. So
I mean, even every team has shown you don't really have to be a good run stopping team to stop our run.
Yeah,
it's just
right about it.
Been that way. I don't know.
Interesting. This is what I'm interested to hear. This is the over under that the people want to hear. All right, Jonathan Taylor, 79 and a half rushing yards, and I'm gonna allow Cody to go first. 79 and a half rushing yards.
Over. Gotta go over, man. Especially because you guys are likely going to miss, if not one, multiple defenders. Like I have to, man. He's continuously over 100 yards. Like he's even like you all saw him last year. He's even better than he was last year, which is crazy to say. But like he had over 100 yards against Buffalo in that playoff game, and I think he's going to continue to do it. He's just that good of a back. It's kind of like with Derrick Henry. It's like you can't stop him, but you could slow him down. And I think Taylor's gonna get his carries like normal.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a workhorse. I think he's gonna get his carries. I think he's gonna go over that, but he's not going to be the second 100-yard rusher. I think we're gonna hold him under 100 this week.
Okay, Matt is always optimistic. He kills me. But
I just got faith in the defense, man. Faith in the defense.
So let me ask you this: Indianapolis Colts defense, specifically the defensive line, excuse me, over under 2.5 sacks on Josh Allen. Over under 2.5 sacks.
Man, see, I'm hovering between 2 and 3. So this is tough.
Put that in the Vegas zone.
I'm going to say over. I'm going to say they get 3.
Okay.
I'm going to say get 3. Just because Kwity Paye's playing better, I think it'll free up DeForest Buckner a little bit. Dio Dangbo, I think they'll get a little bit more pressure, especially without Spencer Brown. I think for sure. I'm going to go with 3.
Matt.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to agree with the 3, man. Just because we even with a good offensive line, we've been giving up about 2 sacks a game. So with those guys out, you gotta add in another one.
Interesting. All right, so let me ask you this, and then we're gonna go. We definitely appreciate Cody for coming on. We're gonna go to predictions, right? We want to see, where these guys land. And I'm interested to hear because since the passing yards is so high that they're saying we should be a shootout, but we'll see. But I'm going to ask this real quickly. With our secondary has been like elite, lights out, turnovers every game. So, Matt, over, under 1.5 interceptions.
I'm going to go over. I think they're just 5 ball hawks. They're we talk about it all the time. They're elite, and and in a game like this, they're going to get a lot of one-on-ones. I think so because we're going to have to load the box up to try to contain Jonathan Taylor. So maybe Carson's going to take a couple more chances or something like that. I'm going to go over 1.5.
Cody, how do you feel about it?
Okay. Well, Carson's only thrown 3 picks all year, so I'm going to go under.
Yeah. Because
I think he takes care of the football, at least from that standpoint, pretty well. He doesn't, he has some like questionable throws sometimes, but really for a while there, he had like 0 interceptable passes through like multiple weeks. So
yeah, I saw that.
And it does hinge on that offensive line. I think if he's feeling pressure, he tries to make a play, he throws a dumb pass. I can see that happening, but overall, he's done a really good job in terms of the interceptions and limiting those this year. So I'm going to go under, I think.
Interesting. So you got some.
You
Yeah,
know what
Matt?
though, Sam? I kind of want to add in one more, just because it's like one of my favorite bets to take. I'm going to ask you and Cody, Sam.
Woo.
So since our secondary, I'm going to hold it as so elite. I love taking quarterbacks over 1.5 touchdown passes thrown. Do you guys think Carson Wentz is going to throw over 1.5 touchdown passes this week? I will add this in. We have Trey White and Teron Johnson, who are in top 4. They're top 4 corners who have played the most snaps and not given up. Trey's had 59, and Teron Johnson has had 42 passes against and not given up a touchdown. Trey hasn't given up a touchdown in 273 snaps overall.
I'll answer first, and I'm gonna say yes. Carson Wentz over under 1.5. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game, but the reason being is because not so much of the receivers, but I think Nyheim Hines is gonna get a touchdown. If anybody out there listening, if you want to play Nyheim Hines to get a touchdown, if you play those things, I think that's a good place to start. Primarily because if Milano and Edmonds is out, Nyheim Hines coming out the backfield on a 3rd and 3 at the 10 is deadly for us. You know what I mean? Like that, like it's no way we can stop him. I mean, he's an elite 3rd down back, right? An elite.
I don't know though. I think Poyer or Johnson or Teron Johnson will be definitely accounting for him at that point.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they will or not. I mean, if they are, then that's good. I don't know. I'm not sure if our scheme, but if it's an AJ Klein or something, granted, AJ Klein has been playing great, but he's not like that type of player to cover a back. So I mean, I think it's gonna be like that. Like a Nyheim Hines is gonna get in the end zone, and maybe a Michael Pittman or something like that, or a Mo Alley Cox in the back of the end zone type of thing. I think he's gonna get 2 touchdowns. How do you feel, Cody?
I have 2. Yeah, I had 2 when I initially thought about it. But it could easily be taken away because Jonathan Taylor, at the goal line. Yes. Like that's, people look at 17 touchdowns, they're like, that's all right, but it's not great. It's because Jonathan Taylor has gotten so many goal line carries. He has 9 touchdowns on the year. So you factor in, if the Colts didn't have a running attack like that, how, could Carson Wentz be, approaching 30 touchdown passes? Like, you don't know. But yeah, I think 2 is where I'm going to go. But I could see him just not throwing it and then just going in favor of giving it to 2-8 and down there. And they've had success, so I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see that. I'm going to see how they play it, right? And game script is going to matter a lot. I mean, the weather is the weather. Buffalo is cold, but Carson Wentz has played in cold weather in Philadelphia, right? He's right. He'd be fine.
And North Dakota, man. It's a lot colder there.
Yeah, so he'll be fine. I'm not necessarily too worried about the weather. So with that being said, let's get to predictions, man. Let's get to predictions. We thank everybody definitely for being on the show with us. And if you got predictions on this game, score predictions, I want to hear it. We want to hear it. So please write them in the comments right now. But I'm gonna go to our guest first. We allow our guest to go first. So Cody, give me your prediction on the game.
Okay. So this is what I've been thinking for a score prediction. And the reason, if there's any Colts fans in here, they're probably going to hate me but I'm being honest, like I can't be biased in this. The Colts have not beat a playoff worthy team all year. They've been close in games. They just have really struggled to finish this year in a lot of ways, like the LA game, Carson Wentz gets hurt. You lose that game. The Tennessee game, you lose that game last minute in overtime, and, different games like the Baltimore game, you have a collapse on defense. Like, you very easily could have 8 wins right now if you just are situationally are better. If you're like Tennessee and you go and you win those games, we could be a lot better than we are right now record wise. So until the Colts prove me wrong, I'm not going to choose them. So I got a score of 24-17 Buffalo, because I think maybe the weather will be a little bit of a factor in the score, going up as much. If it's nice out, I think it'll be a little bit higher than that. But right now, that's what I'm going with.
24-17. I like it. And shout out to the guy, our lone Colts fan in the comments, Michael Andrews. I just want to pass this on to you. Yeah, he said we got it. What'd you say, man?
Okay. Messi is coming in all the way from New Mexico.
Right.
You know?
I just gotta say, he said we gotta be faithful, dog. He's just telling you, God. He said, I don't know. We gotta be
I'm
faithful.
sorry. I like my team. I root for my team, but I can't just be blind to my team either. So
For sure. We definitely appreciate you, Mike. Shout out to Mike. Shout out to Tech High. But anyways, Matt, we're 24-12 at home, right? We're 24-12 at home under McDermott. So do you think we're going to keep that streak alive, which is being good at home? Okay.
I do. I think we got to do. This is not really a must-win game, but it's an AFC game. We gotta start picking up conference wins, right? If we want to keep that hope alive to get that number 1 seed. So I do think we're gonna come out on top. I think it's gonna be 31-17, Bills.
31-17. Matt always. That's his lucky number, 31.
I'm in between 31 and 38 range this season at least. That's my number.
I'll say I'll say 28-24. I think it's gonna be a close game. And I think it may come down to a extra point somewhere in there, a missed field goal, like something like that, to kind of turn the tide of the game. But I could see a 28-24 game, Buffalo. I think Buffalo should win this game. With a better team, in my opinion, we have the better quarterback. But that running attack, Jonathan Taylor, I mean, it could be a situation. I remember last year against who did we play? Oh, it's Pat Mahomes, and we thought that Pat Mahomes, not in the playoffs, we thought that Pat Mahomes was going to throw on us, and he just ran the ball with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and we didn't even get the ball. We didn't have the ball. So it could be a situation like that, but we'll see. But let me say this to everybody. We thank Cody, man. We appreciate you coming on. Great show, man. You were an awesome guest. And if you can you let the people know where they can find you and all of those amazing things?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Always fun to come on and talk Colts, get my perspective on the team and stuff. But yeah, as far as where you can find me on social media, you can find me on Twitter and Facebook, on Twitter at CPFelger55. And then also you can find the podcast on, Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, all those things at BTJ Pod, Bring the Juice podcast. As far as listening goes, you can find us on really anywhere you listen to podcasts. So whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever, we're on there. You can just find us there, type in Bring the Juice, Colts podcast or Colts podcast, and we'll more than likely show up on there. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Absolutely. Shout out to Bring the Juice podcast. Shout out to Cody, man. We definitely appreciate you, Matt. Thank you. And we want to let the fans know, listen, man, we appreciate you. OverdueBillsPod.com. OverdueBillsPod.com. Please go to the website. Please thank God for our trusty editor-in-chief, Mike Daniels, for his articles. We got the merch up. You see Matt sporting it. Salute the service. And let me say this, too. Or I'll let Matt say it. Matt, please let the people know about the contest we have going.
Yeah, so the contest, we've been running it every week. Our lovely sponsor at Buffalo Wing Kings, we do a score prediction. You can go with our scores. You can go with Cody's scores, however you want to do it. You got to predict the score for the game this week. As a tiebreaker, you're going to do the overall yardage from the Buffalo Bills, and then you're going to tag 2 people to try to get them to enter too. We want to get as many people a chance to win a gift card from Buffalo Wing Kings as we can. So definitely get your submissions in on IG or Facebook before 1:00 on Sunday.
Absolutely. We definitely want you to do that, and we definitely appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in to the show. And as it is customary, we end every show with a little hey, 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 hey.
Hey.